When a band achieves a pretty high level of success with their first three records, albeit that success not in their home country of the U.S., but predominantly over in the United Kingdom and in Europe, and then they change their sound and achieve their greatest level of success by straying away from their country blues, southern blues rock type sound and stray more into a sound that is, uh, to my ears, very heavily influenced by new wave and almost electronic rock acts of the late 80s, early 90s, and then they sort of shuffle back to their original blues rock sound. um, is it excusable for them, or excuse me, is it commendable for them to not want to necessarily produce successful album part two and produce exactly the same thing they already did? I'm talking about the Kings of Leon. And with their fourth record, Only by the Night, in 2008, they achieved the greatest level of success um, in some parts of the world that almost any rock band or any band at all achieved. Um, like I already said, 2008's Only by the Night brought in what I thought was a phenomenal record because it didn't um, really hold on to a lot of those southern blues rock laws and rules that a lot of those type of bands adhere to, and to my ear cause them to sound um, predominantly all the same as each other. Not to take away from their talent and their songwriting skills, but to my ears, a lot of those southern blues rock bands and those country blues rock bands don't really sound all that different from each other. And so when Kings of Leon put out Only by the Night and took on a lot more echo and effects, some people might have said it was a more contrived record, but I thought personally that it was actually one of their most liberated and experimental records. And I'm wondering if they thought so too, because in 2010 with their Come Around Sundown, they almost completely returned to their southern blues rock roots and produced a record, especially following the masterwork that Only by the Night was. They followed it up with something that was kind of lackluster. Now, bearing in mind there was a lot of personal stuff going on within the band, and especially for their frontman at that stage, but Only by the Night far outshone Come Around Sundown. Now, 2 years later, almost 2 years ago from now, back in September of 2013, they released Mechanical Bull. And rock radio was very excited to get it. And the first single, Super Soaker, sounded very much like a Kings of Leon song, which is neither good nor bad, but it didn't sound progressive in the same way that the music on Only by the Night did. Um, and for the most part, the stuff on Mechanical Bull is a split mix. It's really an even mix of the best parts of Only by the Night and a return to the music that they more typically made throughout the rest of their career. Um, Not surprisingly for you, given the tone of this review thus far, my favorite songs on this record are the ones that take on more of an atmospheric and moody tone, not unlike the music on Only by the Night. I'm speaking of Beautiful War and Wait for Me and Coming Back Again. These songs uh, save this record in my ears for the Kings of Leon, um, as if they care. But shows a lot of promise, and I am looking forward to future recordings from them. And that's really all I can say about Mechanical Bull. It feels like a bit of a jumbled mess. It feels a bit like they weren't sure musically who they are and where they wanted to go. And there are some pretty good songs on here, but there's also some pretty lackluster songs. And I guess supposing what part of their career you really more gravitate to, there's going to be specific songs on here that um, you really glom onto as opposed to others. And so I would not be surprised to hear a lot of Kings of Leon fans saying it sounded pretty good in parts and less good in others. And just I think there's differing points of views on which parts were good and which parts weren't so good. So, Kings of Leon Mechanical Bull, it's almost 2 years old now, so if you're a Kings of Leon fan, chances are you've picked it up. If you haven't, because you were really put off by Come Around Sundown and how disappointing it was, especially in comparison again to Only by the Night, I think you can pick this up reasonably inexpensively now. Not in the bargain bins, but it's not. It's probably available for less than prime retail price. I suggest you pick it up. There's a couple tracks on here which are worth the purchase price, and enjoy. KingsofLeon.com. They are going to be doing a bit of touring. The only dates announced thus far are in June and July, and they'll be predominantly in the United States for those. My name is Daryl, by the way. This is an album a day online, and I've been your critic. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. And if you want to criticize the critic, go to makeshiftmade.com. You can check out my band, and you can let me know whether you like my music or not. Go out, discover new music. Go out and listen to new music. And if you haven't just sat down with a record and a pair of headphones in a while, you really should do so. It's the best way to listen. Have a good night.